Good evening. Welcome to the State of Business on our television with me, Kavishka Pereira. Let's take a look at today's headlines. President Maithripala Sirisena embarks on official visit to the Philippines. Land reclamation of the port city concluded today. News in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena commenced a 4-day state visit to the Philippines, marking the first invitation extended to a Sri Lankan head of state to undertake an official visit to the Philippines during the period of 58-year diplomatic relationship between Sri Lanka and the Philippines. The president arrived at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila yesterday. At the airport, President Sirisena was received by a special delegation including the Trade and Investment Minister of Philippines. Diplomatic relations were established between Sri Lanka and the Philippines in 1961, with the government of the Philippines opening a legation in Colombo. During his visit to the Philippines, President Sirisena is expected to further strengthen political, economic and cultural ties between the two countries, and he is also expected to sign several new MOUs in this regard. President Sirisena also scheduled to visit the Asian Development Bank headquarters in Manila and the International Rice Research Institute in Los Baños, and the president will hold bilateral discussions with the president of the Asian Development Bank, Takehiko Nakao, as well. Issuing a special statement with regard to President Maithripala Sirisena's official visit to the Philippines, Sri Lankan ambassador to the Philippines, Aruni Ranaraja, expressed the following.
It will be the first ever head of state visit from Sri Lanka. It is an important event for the Sri Lankans as well as to the Filipinos, as this will be the first head of state visit. During the visit, we have planned, President will be speaking to President Duterte on various sectors, especially the areas which we have identified are defense, education, tourism, health, and other sectors, and also there will be few agreements which we are planning to sign on the defense, also the agriculture, higher education, and tourism. Of course, on the sidelines of the President's visit, President will be meeting the President of the Asian Development Bank, Mr. Nakao. Also, here President is going to meet the International Rice Research Institute Director General, Dr. Morel. This is the first head of state visit from Sri Lanka after 58 years of diplomatic relations. During the discussions, we will focus on how best the ADB could help Sri Lanka on loans, grants and technical support. We are confident the bilateral discussions as well as the discussions with the International Rice Research Institute as well as with the ADB discussions will give more productive outcome of the whole visit.
A special ceremony was held in Colombo today to mark the conclusion of the land reclamation for the port city. The port city, once completed, will be an extension of the central business district of Sri Lanka, spanning 269 hectares of reclaimed land from the sea. The land will be developed as a residential, retail and business destination. The development will comprise of 5 different precincts, including the financial district, Central Park Living, Island Living, the Marina and the International Island. Functioning under its own special jurisdiction, the city will have its own economic and commercial laws that are to facilitate the operation of global multinational corporations. Speaking at the ceremony, Minister of Megapolis and Western Development Partly Champika Ranawaka stated that Sri Lanka is poised for a quantum leap and that the timing of the port city is ideal for the future development of the country.
When talking about port city and what it is going to do, the question that would come to anybody's mind is what benefit is there for Sri Lanka? As I stand here before you today, I can only give you a message of hope. We are positioning our country for a quantum leap where opportunity is concerned not just for now but for generations to come. The timing is spot on. If you look at some of the latest projections in the world today, over 1.3 million people are now moving into cities every week. In 2008, the percentage of the world population living in cities was 50%. By 2040, it is expected to go up to 65%. Currently, 60% of the world GDP comes from the top 600 urban centers. And in the future, developing countries too will follow this trend because as much as 80% of future economic growth in the developing world is expected to occur in cities.
Speaking further, Minister Ranawaka stated that the port city will become the catalyst which would propel Sri Lanka into the future.
Historically, Sri Lanka was known for our plantations, tea, rubber, coconut and other things during the colonial era. and more recently for some of the services we provided, but we have always been an auxiliary, that is providing supplementary to additional help and support for the bigger picture. We have never really been center of that big picture. Today, if we are to make an impact, we need to be creating synergies, not just supplying services, and that is what the Port City concept is all about. We are going to be the center of change in the next few years, and Port City will be the catalyst in getting us there. Speaking about this change, there is something very significant happening in the world today that needs to be mentioned. That is none other than China's Belt Road Initiative, which is pushing our economic outlook in an entirely new direction. We know that Port City is part of that program. And as we are gathered here to celebrate the completion of the first stage of this magnificent project, I say this is ground zero, and it would extend to become the center of South Asia, the hypercenter of Indian Ocean. Therefore, I must say, no longer as a technocrat, an engineer, but as a person driving the policy and plans for the future Sri Lanka, that I am proud to launch this project into a next stage of surface and infrastructure development.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development Patle Champika Ranawaka also elaborated upon the contribution of the ministry towards propelling the Port City project forward and also the environmental challenges the project faced during its infancy.
In 2016, Port City was handed over to the UDA under the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development by His Excellency the President, and prior to that there was a committee and the chaired by Mr. Ajitha Di Costa to ascertain the viability of the project, and the said committee submitted an adverse report on the continuation of the Port City project. However, we very patiently and carefully revisited the entire master plan, understood the need of the project and diplomatic concerns. We handled them professionally to overcome all such issues. The Port City has gone through two comprehensive environmental impact assessments. The SEIA of December 2015, which was for the reclamation stage, went through a public hearing and received 215 written responses. 72 conditions were set by the government, and they have been met by the project company. EIA in October 2017, which was for the city infrastructure phase, which also included social impact study, was also subject to the public hearing and received just 2 comments. The EIA has been approved and received 53 conditions, and the process will be followed by the project company.
Stay tuned for more news after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Speaking at the ceremony to celebrate the conclusion of land reclamation for the Port City Colombo, Managing Director of China Harbour Engineering Company Port City Colombo Private Limited, Huliang Jiang, expressed the following.
After nearly 28 months of the sand extraction, the reclamation work for the 269 hectares of land area will be completed today. This marks a significant achievement for Colombo Port City project. This milestone provides a solid foundation for the subsequent construction of the infrastructure facilities, public areas such as parks and land sales, and the future of vertical development. Now, please allow me to officially announce that the reclamation works of 269 hectares of land in Colombo Port City is successfully completed. Looking back over the past 28 months, 4 large dredgers with advanced technology have been mobilized to operate at the 24/7 to accelerate the reclamation process. I'm very happy to also announce that the reclamation and land formation has been completed almost 3 months in advance of the schedule. In the process of the sand extraction and reclamation, we strictly adhere to the environment protection requirement of the development permit issued by the Department of Coast Conservation, and in close coordination with local fishermen, respecting feedback received from the Ministry of Megapolis and the Fishermen's Livelihood Support Program Office located in Negombo area.
Issuing a statement following the meeting yesterday with Sri Lankan delegation led by Minister of Finance Mangala Samaraweera, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund Christine Lagarde states that a strong policy mix with effective implementation of the agenda is key to strengthening confidence. In the statement issued by the Communications Department by the IMF, Christine Lagarde further states that both parties agreed that this is what is required to put Sri Lanka on a sustainable, high-quality growth path that would benefit its people. She further notes that the IMF remains ready to support Sri Lankan authorities in these endeavours and that an IMF team is scheduled to visit Sri Lanka in mid-February to resume programme discussions. The Sri Lankan delegation, which was led by Minister Samarawira, included Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, Non-Cabinet Minister of Public Distribution and Economic Reforms, Dr. Harsha De Silva, and the Secretary to the Treasury, Dr. RHS Samarathunga. The International Air Travel Association has renewed the IATA Operational Safety Audit Registry of Sri Lankan Airlines for a further 2-year period up to 4th December 2020. IOSA is the global airline industry's benchmark for an airline's operational management and control systems, and Sri Lankan had its IOSA registry renewed once again following a stringent audit process. Conforming to IOSA's high standards required a collective, concerted and continuous effort by employees throughout the airline's global network. Sri Lankan in 2006 became one of the first airlines in Asia to obtain IOSA registry, which is renewed every 2 years. The IOSA standards and recommended practices contain almost 1,000 standards that are continuously improved upon, which IATA member airlines are required to comply with. Sri Lanka's own safety management system is compliant with IOSA standards. Windy conditions are expected to strengthen to some extent over the island, particularly in the eastern, Uva, western, northwestern and north-central provinces and in the Hambantota and Mannar districts and surrounding sea areas in the next few days. Several spells of light showers will occur in the Uva and central provinces and in the Batiklo and Ampara districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Galle, Mathura and Kalutara districts after 2 p.m. Fairly strong gusty winds up to 40 km per hour can be expected over the northwestern, eastern, Uva, north-central and western provinces and in the Hambantota district. There may be temporarily localized strong winds during thunder showers. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning activity. Stay tuned for stock updates after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a mixed note today. The All-Share Price Index dropped 7.68 points to close at 5,973.34 and the S&P SL20 gained 3.99 points to close at 3,044.72. The turnover was 950.1 million rupees and 13.1 million shares were traded. Next up is Forex rates. Well, that's all the news we have for today. Join us tomorrow at the same time for more of the very latest. Thank you and good night.